Hello, and welcome to Across the Aisle, where we give you politics from a different point of view. My name is Saquon Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host John Minza, James Davidman, and today's special guest is Javier David. Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. David.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I would like to start this question off with you first, James. Oil has been spilling in our Gulf for over a month. Now, if you add on the casualties associated with the initial oil spill, plus the tragedy in West Virginia, have Republicans started to rethink drill, baby, drill?
Tragedy in West Virginia? Are you referring to the coal mine?
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, well, I don't want to resort to sloganeering in light of such a tragedy as the one that we're seeing down in the Gulf of Mexico, but to answer your question, as far as needing the energy sources that will help this country run, I think we absolutely do need to continue drilling oil. The energy demands that America has far outweigh any other countries. And most of the other countries out there that do drill offshore do very well. Now, there are certain risks that come along with it, but these risks are no different than running nuclear power plants. They're no different from the risks that you get running coal mines. I mean, we're not going to stop using electricity tomorrow. So until we can develop a cost-effective, more accessible form of alternative energy, we should continue to tap any energy source that's available to us, lest we continue to be at the mercy of Middle Eastern sheiks and the OPEC cartels. That's not going to help our country, and it's bad for security and it's bad for business. So for our own security, for our own energy needs, we definitely need to continue drilling.
I think that maybe, it's time to maybe look at these alternative sources that you're talking about. I understand that, we have needs, we have cars, we have planes, we have ships that run on oil, but after a while you have to weigh the costs and the benefits of drilling for oil. And I think we're coming to a point where, maybe it's time we start looking towards renewable sources of energy and look towards, saving the planet.
I mean, I'll let you go with this, Javier, but I mean, we're still doing the same techniques as we were in 1860. I mean, what has really changed besides the mechanisms? I mean, for Republicans to sort of block their legislation that's going on right now, or to prevent us from moving forward, I mean, wind energy, solar, there are a number of different resources that could have happened, I believe, if Al Gore was in charge right now, that definitely didn't happen because Bush is there. I mean, Javier, at some point there has to be some sort of differentiation on how we do things and how we go about finding resources in this country.
I think you're discussing this and that you're creating basically a Hobbesian choice. You're saying that there's alternative energy or there's drilling. At this particular time, or this juncture, we are exploring resources, alternative energy resources. There's a wind farm that, by the way, the Kennedy family decided in Massachusetts that they didn't want because it obscured the view of their pristine Kennedy compound out there. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can look it up. But the simple fact of the matter is we are pursuing these renewable energy resources. The problem is we are an industrial economy. We need fossil fuels to help run it. Now, the oil spill in the Gulf has unequivocally shifted the debate, and I have to acknowledge this, in favor of those who are looking to block domestic drilling. The politics of it at this particular juncture favor those who want alternative energies and want to block drilling offshore and onshore, even though President Obama has said that he wants to sort of proceed with his plan.
And I personally don't even agree with what Obama's doing. Now, first of all, my philosophy is...
I'm one of the few things I actually do agree with.
I'm a starch Democrat. I bleed blue, if you were
really?
to.
Would never.
But at the end of the day, I don't even think that what Obama's doing is actually of the right thing to do. And I personally think he only did it based off of healthcare to appease Republicans for healthcare. Now, you do realize that BP is a British company, it's British Petroleum, so we have a foreign country who is drilling, a foreign company who is drilling on domestic land
they're not exactly
They're providing energy for 300 million Americans.
At the end of the day,
at what cost?
That's the benefit.
At what cost?
At what cost? You have environmental costs.
That's the actual benefit that you were describing, meeting the energy needs of 300 million people. I mean, Brazil is drilling offshore, but they're also pursuing nuclear energy. They're pursuing hydroelectric
We are
energy.
not doing any of that, James.
Yes, we are pursuing, but they're not cost effective, unfortunately. You're not going to put up 58 million windmills and think you're going to power everyone's home with it.
There's way too much money in oil for the government to really.
But there's way too much money in,
motivated.
correct yourself. There's way too much money in foreign oil. All of our resources, or the vast majority of them, are imported from places like where? Venezuela,
Right. Nigeria,
Iran,
Saudi Arabia.
I mean, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And the problem is we continue to send money to people that just don't like us very much and who don't have our interests at heart. The argument should center on what is best for the American economy and the American people, and that is to tap these energy markets that exist here domestically, so we don't have to send money to people overseas who either want us dead or want us to fail.
But James and Javier, you realize that we can't drill our way to energy independence. This has to be a philosophy.
Of course we can.
How do you drill your way to energy
It's an all of the
independence?
above
This is-
approach. You
it's an
don't,
all of the
you
above
don't
approach.
primarily,
They're
you
not
don't just
mutually
have to drill.
exclusive.
I mean, you can pursue alternative sources, but drilling should be on the table because it's there, it's cost effective, and our economy, quite frankly,
And so-
depends
But I
on it.
don't think we can ever meet the needs that we have, that we want. for oil.
Continuously.
Continuously, just keep drilling and drilling and
Well,
drilling.
the problem
I mean, at some
is-
point, there's not going to be any more left.
Well,
when does it
you're
end?
talking about the
When do we
peak oil
start to-
theory, and that's a whole other discussion. But
What's the
for
timeline?
right now-
What's the timeline for that?
God,
I think it's a
they said
couple
like
hundred
100
years.
years or so. Yeah. Anyway.
So I think until then,
Yeah.
we can.
So
continue.
100 years starting when though? I mean, don't be sarcastic
No
in
one
terms
really
of when the
knows.
timeline.
I'm just saying it's a pretty extended
if we
timeline.
keep
It's not
going-
an urgent. It's not as
Who's-
urgent as you're trying to say it
Who
is right
found
now.
who discovered that it's only a few hundred years?
That's,
Ecologists,
those
that's
are the
what they do.
predictions.
They-
Those are the
they look into the
predictions.
ground
and,
and
and
they
I
see what
would,
kind of
I'd have
fossil
to,
fuels
I'd have
we
to
have.
research it, and I don't know the exact data. That
I
exists.
swear right
So
now.
what? Wait till the last
We're
second.
not going to run out of oil
No,
next
but
week.
of course,
Is basically what I'm trying to say.
you guys are arguing this as if people who support drilling are saying don't bother trying to explore other sources of alternative energy.
Why would they do that? If you know how much money BP made in the last quarter, $6 billion.
What is
Why
exactly
would
does that
you?
mean?
Why
What was
would
their profit
you?
margin?
Why would you?
What was their profit margin?
Six-
I mean, oil companies they run on about 8%, 9% profit max. So their margins don't
9%
even match
of $6 billion. I'll take that any day, James. I'll take that any day.
I'm saying
people,
it,
you know,
it
the
costs a lot to
problem with-
develop it. It costs a lot to bring it out there.
And that's per
You can't
quarter.
get mad at them for making a profit off it if it's in the range, if it's in a margin of 7 to 10%. That's not a big margin there. It costs a lot to. For
James, don't argue
drilling,
math. Don't
costs a
argue
lot for
math.
research.
Okay.
And
I'm just
may
saying.
I, and may I make one?
I would
one small
throw
point?
my
No, no,
shoe
no,
at
before-
you, but
before-
BP called me and told me you needed to plug the hole with it. So I got to keep it on.
Your side of this argument consistently argues that a oil company makes X amount of dollars, X billions of dollars, and the simple fact of the matter is oil companies do what every other business on the face of the earth does. They take advantage of supply and demand.
But it comes with
wouldn't
a
make,
cost,
They
though.
wouldn't make the money that they make if the demand for oil didn't exist. And it comes from the United States and it comes from China. And what does China do in order to satisfy its energy needs? It sets up very unsavory deals with very unsavory regimes, such as the Sudan, such as Iran.
We're talking about
in
America
order to-
here. Don't bring in China.
of course,
We're talking about
we
here.
are talking about America, but this is the same. The same principle is active here. The simple fact of the matter is, China does business with hostile regimes, and their primary driver of their foreign policy is who can supply them with oil or with energy. So that's what they pursue.
But doesn't
This
mean
is
America has to do it,
but this is what we've been doing for years, and we need to get off of it. If we did it
How can
domestically,
we, if
it could
Republicans
be
are
a lot.
I think we
continuously
can agree that we all want energy independence. We're just saying don't take domestic oil drilling off the table, especially if it'll help us rely less on oil sources from those dangerous regimes that Javier was just mentioning.
Jen,
and I think that's a noble and a worthy goal.
Let me address it this way too, and then John, you can. Let's go your route. Where you're saying that it's saying economists are taking 100 years to start, right? We've been having this discussion since the 1960s. That means that we would only be, if we had this done back in the 60s, we would only be 60 years away. So at some point, we have to start to find these energy sources that are going to be different. Because if we don't, we're going to be having this argument when my son is 50 and we're not here anymore. So at some point, that has to be started and it has to go with the legislation.
Well, during the President's State of the Union address, he mentioned that he was